What's up, guys? This is Nick from Hybrid Physiques coming back with a quick review of the 212 Olympia. I usually follow someone like Kenny KO or Nick Strength and Power. There's a couple of reviewers of these competitions, but it seems like a lot of these reviewers were never higher level bodybuilders or had their pro cards. I want to weigh in from a retired pro perspective. I do have an IFBB Pro card. I turned pro in men's bodybuilding, transitioned, did one pro show in classic physique, and I'm taking some time off. I'll most likely return to competing in a couple years, 3-4 years, something like that. But just life gets in the way and we continue. Again, I'm going to start reviewing competitors and shows, and hopefully you guys get a higher level of understanding of these shows. So finally, here we are, 2019. We're getting some good decisions or some good choices on the Olympia and placing correctly. Now, what we have here is we have Derek Lunsford, obviously was the shoe-in for the victory this year. However, Derek did not bring the conditioning or the separation that he needed. We have Kamal, who is more or less an underdog. No one really thought he'd be standing up in this match. And then again, Sean Clarida, who presented himself absolutely fantastically. So to start, we have Derek Lunsford, who from a muscularity standpoint, if we look at this first image, this is their most muscular shots. Derek Lunsford has all the shape in the world. He's really on this stage right now because of his genetic gifts. Now, don't take that wrong from the perspective of he doesn't work hard, he doesn't put in the effort. The reality is everybody on that stage works hard and puts in the effort. They all have a fantastic amount of muscle on their body. They all have great symmetry. The differentiation here is the conditioning. Now, do you point the finger at Lunsford or do you point the finger at the coach? Well, it's a combination of things. So when you're at this level, when you're on the pro level or you're getting to these big shows, so many factors come into play, not only just quote unquote dialing a guy in. So you have someone like Lunsford who's holding a good amount of water for this level, right? This is supposed to be the best show of the year coming in prime. And I don't necessarily blame Derek because there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He's dubbed Mr. USA, the uprising next greatest thing. He's got a lot of stress on his shoulder. What happens with increased stress, increased cortisol, increased water retention? Now, the only way you kind of battle that is you really just have to separate your mind from what's going on day to day. Lunsford, I believe, does a great job in doing that. However, the night before the show, I'm on Instagram on Bodybuilders Without Borders page, and he's posting responses. He posted a response to myself, specifically on water retention. He posted a couple of responses to other people, very sarcastic, a little arrogant, but at the same time, I understand that. You're competing at the Mr. Olympia for the #1 spot. You have to be a little arrogant. You have to be a little, King Kong-esque. You have to have that right mindset going into the show. But I believe that serotonin, that stress, it got to him a little bit. The pictures of the day before, you could tell he's holding a ton of water. He looks like a damn water balloon. And as we see here in this image, if you look at the details of the chest from Derek Lunsford, as well as Kamal, as well as Sean Clarida, you could see the separation. You could see the water being held in his chest. Scroll down to the quads. You could see feathered quads on Sean Clarida. You could see feathered quads on Kamal Khan. It's specifically on the outer quad, the sweep. You could see those cross striations. Derek is missing those. Does he have cuts in his quads? Absolutely. Start looking at his inner quad, the little sections. You could see several different muscle groups in Clarida. You could see the muscle groups in Kamal. You cannot see them in Derek. Now, how does this break down on the scorecards? Let's take a look at the scorecards here. And we have Kamal, the first round, scoring a 7, which is a combination of the symmetry round as well as the muscularity round. We have Derek Lunsford scoring a 10, and we have Sean Clarida scoring a 13. Now, what does this mean? This means the combination of symmetry, the quarter turns, as well as the muscularity round, they give you a total score. Now, me personally, looking at these images, I have Sean Clarida ahead of Derek Lunsford for several different factors. Number 1, conditioning. Number 2, water retention. Number 3, overall shape and balance. To me, Derek's legs are a tiny bit undersized for his upper body. He's a little top heavy to me. Now, you could scroll over to Kamal and say, well, Kamal is top heavy as well. He's got smaller legs than both of them. However, the conditioning in Kamal brings him to that next level, brings him to that better score. And again, if you look at these scores, there's a 3-point difference, that's not really a tight competition. It really isn't. You scroll over to the finals as well. Derek scores a 10, Kamal scores a 7, and Sean Clarida scores a 13. That's not that type of a competition. This is really a lights out night and day show. This was not a close comparison in the judges' eyes based on these scorecards. Again, if we're looking at Sean versus Derek, I have Sean edging Derek out. From a standpoint of symmetry, I think Sean is cleaner. From a standpoint of conditioning, I think Sean is tighter. Now, an additional piece, if you look at Sean's chest in these images, his chest is covered in vascularity. I want you to understand that vascularity is not a scoring component. That is not judged. So you need to, in your mind, remove those veins and look at the actual skeletal muscle structure and skeletal muscle tissue versus the other competitors, ignoring the veins. It's a little hard to do. However, that's what you need to do to score this round. If we look at the next images from the back here, we have Derek Lunsford again, just probably one of the best shapes in bodybuilding, in the history of bodybuilding. Take the 80s, take the 90s. He has the potential to have the best shape in bodybuilding. He doesn't really have any weaknesses, maybe a little bit on the lower lats. They're a little high. He could really thicken that area up a little bit, but from the mass, the width, the hamstring depth, the quads, the sweep, the glutes, everything is very, very nicely balanced. But then we scroll over to Sean, and again, Sean has big belling quads from the rear, glutes are in, nice V taper. He is definitely a little more back thickness than Derek in that lower lat region. Scroll over to Kamal. He's just rock hard. This is what competing is about. This is what bodybuilding is about. He brought the package he needed to bring at the right time. It's a big differentiator when we're showing, especially standing next to each other. If you look at the solo rounds, right, them just standing next to each other without the other competitor, Derek looks like he's going to smoke everybody. But again, when you compare those images to another competitor that's actually in shape, that's when it makes a difference. Everybody is a Mr. Olympia on Instagram. Myself, when I used to post pictures, I looked like Mr. Olympia on Instagram. It's when you're standing next to competitors is when you get a differentiating factor. This last image here, Kamal, the most muscular. Derek, hands clasped, most muscular. Sean cleared a hands clasped. You could see just from a conditioning standpoint. Derek really doesn't belong in that second position, again, in my opinion. It's a difficult balance, again, because bodybuilding is a subjective sport. You can't look at this and say immediately what I believe to what you believe are significantly different. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm right. So let's compare the night show here and what these images look like. So we're going to start off with this rear double bi from the night show, and this image is a little blurry. However, we can see that Derek definitely did come in a little tighter. Is it enough to supersede the morning show? No, I don't believe so. Is it enough to supersede next to Kamal? No, I don't believe so. Now, Sean is a little difficult to see, but I have added one more competitor in this piece, and that's John Jewett. I think John's tighter. I think John's better than Derek in this night show. I think John was better in the morning show. I think he just got overlooked a little bit. In my opinion, I would have scored this Kamal number 1, Sean Cleary number 2, John Jewett number 3, Derek Lunsford number 4. Now, Derek Lunsford, also number 4, fighting pretty tightly with Hidetada Yamagishi. However, Hidetada was a little narrow. He was a little small. He's getting a little older. He's losing that muscularity. But just from a conditioning factor, this is the Mr. Olympia. You should be the best. You should be see-through. You shouldn't be having these issues at that stage. That's the biggest gripe I have with Derek Lunsford for this show, especially because there was so much buildup over the course of the past 3 years. With that being said, for the past 3 years, Derek Lunsford has had these water issues. He has never come in super peeled, super shredded, in my opinion. I kind of like to compare him to somebody like Big Ramy. All the muscle in the world, all the shape in the world, but can't nail the conditioning down. Again, is that his fault? Partially. I'd say probably 25% is the mental aptitude, 25% is the coaching from the diuretics, from the water build and water release, and then 50% from the genetic perspective. So overall, the 212 Mr. Olympia, I was pretty happy with the competitor list. I was pretty happy with how the judging and scoring went and the placings. I also want to clarify that it sounds like I'm harping a lot on Derek Lunsford in this video, but what I'm trying to do is give you a analyzation of why he came in second place versus first, especially if you're comparing the genetic structure. Again, I'll repeat, he is one of the best genetic structures in the sport of bodybuilding today. Will he be a Mr. Olympia in the future? Absolutely. Will he be 212? I'm not sure. Will he be open? Who knows? With Hadi Chopin coming in third place in the open division in Mr. Olympia, I think that probably gives Derek a little motivation to go up in a weight class. He may be constricting his muscle size and muscle growth because he wants to fit into that 212 class. I'm not really sure. Again, that's my comparison. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please comment below. If you enjoyed my comparison, please like and subscribe. And that is Hybrid Physiques out.